All right, today we are going to cover couple of keywords this and super. Okay, so first I will cover this keyword. I'm creating a new package. This. Okay, what does it mean? I'll create a new class. Oakland class. Sorry, I think the system setup is something wrong. One second, guys. The system setup is changed. We fix it first. Okay. All right. I got. So basically, we are not supposed to use this as a package name because this is a reserved keyword. This keyword is a reserved keyword in Java. Let's write some notes as well before we write the program notes. This, please see the spelling here. This is a keyword which can be used for variables, methods, constructors. This keyword reserved, I would say reserved keyword. This keyword is used to call the variables, methods, and constructors of the current class. The current class. That's it. There are very few points that we have. So let's see programmatically how it works. Right. So I would say int I equal to n void test. This dot I equal to 20. Just sort of this dot I. Just sort of constructor. How do we grade the constructor? This dot I equal to 30. Just sort of this dot I. Just sort of I. Writing the main method PSVM. Since all the members are non-static, we need to create the object for accessing those variables. New yeah. This dot new one dot test. This dot let's run the program. So we are creating the object. Obviously, whenever we are creating the object, the constructor will be executed. Even before the constructor, it should have checked if there are any instance blocks. Since we had not written any instance block, it went to the constructor. So in the constructor, what are we doing? This dot I equal to 30. That means we are referring I. So this keyword, this is a reserved keyword which is used to refer the members of a current class. Members of a current class, not with any other class, right? Just to refer the members of the current class, we can use the this keyword. This dot I equal to 30, right? Next we have SOB of this dot I. Again it is printing. It is printing 30. Whether it is I or this dot I, both of them are same here, because both of them belongs to the same class. Both of them belongs to the same class. Even if you go in the test method, after creating the object, after executing the constructor, we are calling the test method. If you go inside the test method, again we are reinitializing the value I with 20. Here also we are referring this dot I. So this dot I had become 20. Whether it is this dot I or just I, it is always refers to the current class variable. This just for the current class variable. Simple English terminology, right? This keyword is just used to refer the current class members, I would say, as I mentioned in the notes, current class members, variables, methods, and constructors. All right, that's the only thing that we need to learn about this. We have something called super. Similarly, super. Let's create a package first. Super keyword. I'm creating a class a int I equal to 10. Yes, sort of a this dot. I'll write a child class for the parent class A, that is class B. So when I want to write the child class, how do I write? I need to use the extends keyword. So obviously B had become the child class for A. Here I am going to create another variable int I equal to 20. Okay, I am creating a constructor. This dot I equal to 30 sort of this dot I. Similarly, sort of super dot I. Okay, super dot I. I'm writing the main method PSVM. Let's create the object b1 equal to new b b1 dot sort of b1 dot a. So super is also a keyword just like this, but what is the difference? Super keyword is used to refer the members of its superclass. What is the superclass here? What is the superclass here? Yeah. So if you want to refer any variables from the superclass of its current class, right? Here current class is B, its superclass is A. So if you want to refer any members of its superclass, then you can use the super keyword. If you want to refer any members of the current class within that class, then we can use the this keyword, right? Let's see the output. Right? Why it is printing 10 here? Okay, forget about 10. Why we are getting 30? Because we are reinitializing the value of I as 30, and then we are calling this dot I. So this dot I is 30, the current class variable, right? Then we are printing super dot I, right? So in the super class, what is the value of I? 10. So we are getting 10. So we understand this and we understood this 30 and 10. Even the last 30, why we are getting 30? Because in the main method we are calling the b1 dot I. Even here we are getting the 30 because the latest value of I is 30. But now we don't know why we are getting 10 here, right? So what happens is, whenever you are executing the constructor, that means whenever you are creating an object, obviously it executes its constructor, right? What happens here is, whether you put it or don't put it, automatically compiler will keep the statement as a first statement, super. That means first this will call the super class constructor, right? Then it comes back and then executes the remaining part of the constructor. That is the logic behind this. So obviously, when super, if you just see super and just open bracket and close bracket, that means we are calling the super class constructor. In the super class constructor, what do we have? Just sop of I. What is that value of I here? It is 10. That is the reason we are getting 10 as the first result in the output. By default, compiler calls the superclass constructor whenever the current class constructor is getting executed. By default, the superclass constructor will be executed first and then its subclass. See, if I put it or if I don't put it, it doesn't matter. It always executes the superclass constructor. Even if I don't put this super here, I still get the same output, right? Even if I put it, I'll get the same output. So super is the first statement that will be executed always inside the constructors. Super will be the first statement that will be always executed inside the constructor. And when you are writing super explicitly, this should be the first statement. You cannot write as a second statement. Let's say, for example, I'll put it here. It won't be accepted. See, if I just remove this here, it will not be accepted as the next statement. Let's see, if I put it here, here also it is not accepted. You want, you can see the message here. Call to super must be the first statement in the constructor body. First statement. This is not allowed to call as the next statement. Even in the end, if you put it, no, this is not accepted. Right? If you want to put the super, that should be the first one. Otherwise, you don't keep it. That is the logic here. Clear? Any doubts here?
No, sir.
Notes. So, super is a reserved keyword to all the members of superclass. What are the members? It can be the variables, methods, and constructors. What is the next rule? It doesn't matter whether we are calling them explicitly or not. Compiler We'll call the superclass constructor first, and then the remaining execution continues. If we are calling super explicitly, what is the rule? It should be the first statement. It should be the first statement. Clear? All right. So let's make another change here. I'll create b of int I. So this is a parameterized constructor. Okay. So even in the class A also, I'll write one parameterized constructor. A of int. Right. See, I had just written the constructor, but I will not write any statement here, or I'll just put s out of b of int. I'll create. So how can I trigger? If I want to trigger this constructor, what should I write? I need to create the object with argument, right? B2 equal to new b of 10, let's say, which is a matching value for this data type, right? Let's look at the execution now. So 10:30 till here we know, and now we have 10 and b of int. Why? Because the a automatically super has been executed. So when I say super, then only this will be executed, but this is also a super class constructor, right? How can I call this super class constructor, right? So if I want to call the super class constructor, so here I can say super of 10, right? Now the superclass constructor is getting executed. That is, superclass constructor is a. Within a we are putting a of int, right? That is the reason we are getting a of int here. Then obviously the current class constructor, that is b of int. Super is a keyword used to call the superclass members. Superclass members. So this is all about this and super, but yes, you can do the lot of practice with many other programs. You can try all the combinations. Okay. Any doubts in this topic? This and super. Can I move to the next topic? Can I move to the next topic?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So we learned about this and super. Similarly, we have a another keyword called final. Let's create a package. Final keyword. Notes Final is a keyword used to final is a keyword used for variables, methods, and classes. We are using final for the variables, the variables cannot be reinitialized. Reinitialized. Similarly, if we are using final for methods, those methods cannot be overridden. Cannot be overridden if we are using final for classes. We cannot create subclass. This is for those classes. These are the three simple points that we need to remember whenever you see a keyword final. If you are using the final keyword, those variables cannot be reinitialized. If you are using the final for methods, those methods cannot be overridden. If you are using the final for classes, those classes cannot be subclassed. We cannot create the child class or subclass. Basically, we cannot implement the inheritance if we are using final for the classes. Let's see how programmatically this works. I'm creating a new class A. Okay. So usually how do we create the variables? Int I equal to int I. This is the declaration, right? I equal to 10. So basically we should not write it here, right? So I'll simply write one main method. Int I equal to. So what is I here? It is a non-static or static? It is a non-static. So we should create the object for this. A1 equal to new A. Right. A1 dot I. If I want to initialize the value, A1 dot I equal to some 10. S out of I. A1 dot I. This is a simple program. So what is the life cycle of the variables? The first stage is the declaration, second stage is the initialization, third stage is the usage. First is declaration, initialization, and usage. All of them can happen together, or declaration and initialization. For example, this is one way of declaring the variable and initialization. There is another way where I would say int j equal to 20. Here, both declaration and initialization, both the things are happening here. But here, first declaration is happening and then the initialization is happening. But here, both declaration and initialization are happening, right? This is a simple life cycle of the variables. So now we want to learn about the final keyword. Now here I am reinitializing the value of, not reinitializing, maybe for the first time I am initializing the value of I as 10. Next I can do a1 dot I equal to 20 again. So this is also possible. So We can do any types of initialization. We can do the initialization any times. So whenever you repeat that initialization, that becomes reinitialization. Reinitialization, right? But for example, if I just add the final keyword here, we had got all the errors wherever you are doing the initialization, because this is what the point that we had learnt here. The variables cannot be reinitialized. So this is understandable because this is the second time we are reinitializing. So obviously the statement says we should not reinitialize. So I'll just remove it this one. But here this is the first time, right? We are initializing, but still we are getting the error. Can anybody has any answer for this? Why this is still getting as error? We are not reinitializing. If by just looking at this code, we are not reinitializing. This is only the first time, right? Only for the first time we are initializing it, but still we are getting the error. Anybody has any answer for this?
The variable I is final, Anna. So we can't reinitialize
Yeah, anyways, we are not reinitializing, right? We are initializing only once, right?
Anna. It's final,
Reinitializing
so
means what? You are doing it multiple times. That means more than two times, more than one time. But here we are not more than once. It's only once.
Anna, the time of declaration only initialize the value, Anna.
At the time of declaration only,
Initialize the value, Anna.
you mean to say something like this?
Anna.
Yeah, but I did not do it, right?
Yeah, so that's why it's take default value, Anna, for that.
Yes.
If we not increase the value, it's take default
Exactly.
value, Anna. Let's
Exactly.
make it final.
Exactly. This is the answer that I was expecting. Whenever, what is this variable? This is a local variable or global variable?
Global, Anna.
Global variable. When you have the global variable, what happens? If you don't initialize the value, what happens?
It's take default value,
It
Anna.
will be initialized with the default value. That means here in this step, though we had not put the value, the compiler has already initialized default value 0 for I. The compiler has already initialized I with default value 0. This will become the second time. That is the reason this is not acceptable. That is the reason this is not acceptable. Clear, guys? Now we need to put some value. So final variable should always be initialized. Final variables should always be initialized at the time of declaration only. Earlier we had seen, first time we had declared, second time we had initialized, and then we were using it. But when you are using the final keyword, the same stage we should initialize it. Final variables should be initialized at the time of declaration only. Final variables should be initialized at the time of declaration only. You cannot reinitialize this. But if you remove the final, you can do whatever you want to do. But if you put final, this is the behavior. These two things cannot happen. Clear? I can put the final keyword even here also. For the local variables also, I can use the final keyword. So here declaration and initialization, both of them are happened. Now I can easily use it. A1 dot j. Sorry, this is a static variable, right? J is a static variable, so we don't need to use the object. Why? Because J is created inside the static context, so automatically this has become a static member. So static members can be called directly. Any confusion here, guys? Very simple. Final variable should be initialized at the time of declaration only. That is a very simple and straightforward statement. Final variables should be declared at that should be initialized at the time of declaration only. Can I move to the next? Let's learn about how to use the final keyword for the methods. What happens, right? I'm creating a class B. Void test. B hyphen test. I'll create a subclass for this class B. Why? Because we are saying overridden. It cannot be overridden. So if we want to check something about this overriding, obviously we should create the subclass. Right? Without subclass, we cannot achieve that overriding functionality. I'm creating class C and then extends B. Okay. Void test sort of C hyphen test. So that means this is the overridden method. See, as soon as you had written void test, it had got the up arrow, and here you had got the down arrow. That means this is overridden in class B. This is declared in class B. This is overridden in class C. Right? Let's split it out. Let's use the final keyword for this. See, I just put the final keyword for this method. Immediately it has thrown the error here and here. What it is saying, just hover the mouse here. Test cannot be overridden. Test method in class B. Overridden method is final. That means this is the exact statement that I had written here. Final methods cannot be overridden. So only once. You cannot override the final methods. But if you want to change the name, let's say for example, int I, right? Now this method is different. This method is different. This is not overloading. This is not even overriding. Okay, because test method which doesn't take any argument belongs to only class B, and test method which takes a single argument belongs to only class C, right? This is the behavior of the final keyword with the methods. This is the behavior of the final method with the methods. So I'm just putting it, commenting it out because I will not be able to run the next class now. Let's learn about the classes. What will happen if we use the final keyword for the classes? I'm creating a new class D. I don't have to write anything to learn about this particular point. So I just created a class D, and now I'll create a subclass for D. that is E. Extends B. Right? Let me close this, split it out. This is a very normal class. I could do the subclass. I can create any number of subclasses for this class D because this is a normal class. As we learned here, if we use the final keyword for the classes, we cannot create the subclasses. What happens? So how do we use the final keyword for the classes? We just need to put the final keyword before the class name. That's it. See, as soon as I had put final keyword before the class name, immediately I had got the error here in the class E, where we are referring class D. Cannot inherit final. Cannot inherit final. The fix is make D as not final. That means we need to remove it. So we cannot create the subclasses for the final classes. This is the error that we get. We cannot create subclasses for the final classes. This is very important question, guys. This will not be asked alone. There are three different things, right? The most important question, difference between final, finally, and finalize. These are the three different similar keywords, right? Which are which looks very close. Final, finally, and finalize. So far, we have learnt about only final, right? Whenever you are answering this question, when you talk about final, you need to tell all these points. That means final is covered. This finally and finalize concept still we had not reached that level, but whenever we reached this level, I'll explain what exactly these two are about. But whenever you are talking about final, you need to explain these 4 points. If you tell these 4 points, that's all. That is done. There is nothing else to talk about final. If you are using the final for variables, variables cannot be reinitialized. If we are using final for the methods, those methods cannot be overridden. If we are using final for the classes, those classes cannot be inherited. Cannot create the subclasses for those classes. If we cover those 4 points, that's all done for final keyword. Any questions? Any doubts, please? If no doubts, I will stop it here. We'll continue tomorrow with the next topic.